was that the most apparent evolutionary changes in humans to arise are the transition from quadrupedalism to bipedalism, and this may be due to an evolutionary effort to conserve oxygen. And then the next change was the gracilization of bone structure that can most likely be attributed to a progressively sedentary lifestyle. And the last change is that there is a change in the timing of molar emergence, which allows more adequate life histories to be obtained. So, quadrupeds versus bipeds. This is a shift, or the shift occurred from walking on all fours to walking on two legs. It's one of the very first major evolutionary changes, and it may have occurred to encourage oxygen conservation. So, how do we know when early humans became bipedal? There were multiple anthropological finds, such as Lucy and the Taung child. The Taung child was discovered by Raymond Dart in 1924. The child had a more anterior and inferior foramen magnum, which indicated it carried its head more erect than any of its predecessors. Essentially, the Taung child was an ape-like hominid that first demonstrated bipedalism. Lucy was another anthropological find, and she presented with an almost complete Australopithecine skeleton. And Australopithecine, sorry, it's a hard word, basically preceded early humans. It was kind of the link between apes and the earliest humans. So she presented with an almost complete Australopithecine skeleton, and she possessed bipedal anatomy, which included a thicker pelvis and a more acute quadriceps angle. And the quadriceps angle is the angle of your femur in relation to your pelvis. So what changes had to occur for bipedalism to be possible? The foramen magnum needed to become more inferior and anterior in the skull. There needed to be an increase in the quadriceps angle. A thicker pelvis needed to occur. There needed to be a change in foot shape. The size of the femur, tibia, and fibula needed to decrease. And there needed to be a more anterior ischia. And lastly, the gluteus medius and minimus needed to become hip abductors rather than hip extensors. And all these changes did occur, which is why we are bipedal today. So, in a study performed by Herman Pontzer, David Raiklin, and Michael Sokol at the University of Arizona, they were looking at oxygen conservation between chimpanzees and humans. So they put 5 chimpanzees on a treadmill and had them perform both gaits, quadrupedalism and bipedalism, and they measured their oxygen output while they were on the treadmill. And then they put 4 humans on a treadmill, and their oxygen output was measured as well. So the results for the study were that the chimpanzees used 75% more oxygen in each trial than the humans. And this shows that bipedalism is far more efficient in humans, not necessarily chimpanzees though, because the chimpanzees do not possess the evolutionary changes that we just discussed, such as change in the position of the foramen magnum, change in foot size, change in length of femur, tibia, and fibia, etc. And those changes are what make bipedalism more efficient. So that's why it was not more efficient in the chimpanzees. So the next evolutionary change in humans I want to look at is gracilization, which is a decrease in strength and bone density. And it can be attributed to an increasingly sedentary lifestyle. So an observational study was conducted to measure bone density in modern humans in relation to early humans. So human participants were given living human participants were given a CT scan and a microtomography scan to measure bone density along their limb epiphyses. And fossilized remains of early humans were examined and their bone density was measured, and then these numbers were compared. And the results of these studies showed that there's a direct relationship between bone density and sedentary lifestyle. And so to conclude this, they looked at the age of the bones and then societal norms of those at those times. And as society became total, bone density decreased. Reasons for this increase in sedentary lifestyle can be due to the fact that we no longer need to chase chase down prey for food, and humans haven't had to do that for a very, very long time. So as technological advances took place, humans became more sedentary. And some of these technological advances are the invention of modern weapons like guns or bows and arrows, and domestication of animals such as horses, because then they didn't need to ride around or run around, they could ride the horses. So a decrease in trabecular bone density also brought about new opportunities for diseases, one of which is osteoporosis, and that leads to an even further decline in bone density. So the decrease in trabecular bone density can almost be a cycle. And the third and last evolutionary change in humans I want to look at is molar emergence. So there's a direct correlation between the eruption of the first molars and brain size, and it's hypothesized that this correlation is due to solid food consumption preceding weaning, and molars erupting, provide more efficient mastication. So essentially, modern humans and even early humans began to consume solid food before they were completely weaned, and so they needed their molars to erupt so they could chew the solid food. So if you look at primates and the earliest humans, in primates, molar eruption occurs at weaning when 90 to 95% of brain growth is complete. In humans, weaning, complete brain growth, and molar eruption occur much, much later. And fossil evidence shows us that early humans' molars erupted later than non-human primates, but 2 to 3 years earlier than modern humans. So now I want to take a look at early and modern human relatedness. Only a quarter of traits shared by Australopithecines and modern humans can be considered synaptomorphic. Some of these traits include some facial features, post-canine dental reduction, and formation of the pelvis. And a lack of shared derived traits, because this number is so low, can be contributed to genetic drift and vicariance. So in conclusion, evolution has allowed for bipedalism, a decrease in trabecular bone density, and a later emergence of molars to occur in modern humans. There are many variable theories for why these evolutionary changes have occurred, but the most relevant maintain that bipedalism began to occur in humans to allow for conservation of oxygen and an overall increase in efficiency to allow for survival as the Earth evolved as well, and that the recent decrease in trabecular bone density occurred due to an increasingly immobile society. And then to this paragraph, I want to add also that there is a direct relationship between brain size and molar emergence. So that's my presentation. I hope you guys learned something. Thank you.